Now the latest from ITV News Meridian with Sangeeta Barbara and Fred Dinage.
Good evening and welcome to ITV News Meridian.
Tonight's headlines. Life without Sabrina. The family of a young mother killed in a car crash on Boxing Day say she was courageous until the end.
She just turned to us and said, "Mummy's going to have a little sleep now, darling." She didn't wake up.
Is it time to change school term time to fit in with working mums and dads? The crucial vote that could mean cheaper holidays.
Opening doors, the teenager who's determined to make it to the top, but why has he had to bend the rules?
And a right royal spring clean, how you can help spruce up Britain in time for the Queen's 90th birthday. Good evening. She was the most loving, forgiving person you could ever meet. That's how a husband has described his wife, who was killed in a car crash on Boxing Day.
Sabrina Bellman had been travelling back from a pantomime with her husband and 3-year-old daughter Elsie when the collision happened.
Friends have raised thousands in Sabrina's memory, but her husband Dominic from Gosport says her death has left a hole that will never be filled. Andrew Peake has the story.
A silver locket with her mum's photograph, given a tender kiss by 3-year-old Elsie. Her mother, Sabrina Bellman, died in a car crash on Boxing Day.
Example of Sabrina's strength, that she didn't want to panic Elsie. She wasn't crying, and she just turned to Elsie and said, "Mummy's going to have a little sleep now, darling." She didn't wake up.
On Christmas Eve, the 26-year-old was giving presents out to the elderly. Age UK Portsmouth had given her the day off, but she asked her husband if she could do it anyway, as she didn't want anyone to feel lonely. She then travelled down to Cornwall to be with her family for Christmas.
It's a crater in our life that will never be filled. It's such a loss.
How is Elsie dealing with it at the moment?
I'm just very confused. But she's, like her mum, she's absolutely strong. Sabrina never moaned, and Elsie is so strange that she's just exactly the same. And through this whole grieving process so far, she's consoling me, and she, just like her mum did, puts her hand on my shoulder and just says it's going to be okay.
The family were returning from a surprise trip to see a panto when there was a collision with another car. Dominic, his mother and Elsie were all injured. Sabrina died before she reached hospital.
I think if anyone can just be safer on the road and stop anything like this happening again to a 3-year-old who loses her mum, and if that makes a difference, then it's not in vain. That's what she would have wanted, and she was important, and she can still make a difference even though she's not with us anymore.
A Just Giving page has already raised over £5,000 to help create a memorial for Sabrina.
We'd speak to each other 10 times a day, and I just have so many memories of her, and she was just such a loving, warm, forgiving person.
Her mum was training to be a counsellor, always on hand to listen and help others. Elsie is showing the same strength to keep her mum's memory alive. Andrew Peake, ITV News, Gosport.
Such a heartbreaking story, and there's more on the fundraising campaign in Sabrina's memory on our website. Just go to itv.com/Meridian.
Brighton and Hove City Council could become the first local authority in the country to change school term times to make it more affordable for families to be able to go on holiday.
The number of fines given to parents for taking their children away during term time has rocketed in recent years. But many think it's a price worth paying to avoid even more expensive holidays.
Well, council talks are already underway. One idea is to reduce the summer holidays and introduce an extra week off in the autumn. With more now, Andy Dickinson.
Parents taking their children to school this morning, many perhaps already dreaming of their summer holidays. But with prices rocketing outside of term times, could they soon be able to book their vacations in March or November? Brighton Council discussing taking a week out of school's traditional summer break and moving it to when holidays are cheaper.
A 6-week holiday is a very long time to be off with your children. In fact, this holiday harks back to the 19th century and even before that, when we needed our children to bring in the harvest at that time of year. So I think we need to respond to changing work shift patterns and the fact that holidays during that peak time of the year are 4 times as expensive as the non-peak period.
Brighton's believed to be the first council in the country to consider the move, the need for flexibility more pressing, with parents under increasing legal pressure to keep their children in school. Over the last 3 years, the number of families fined in this city for their children's unauthorised absence has risen dramatically. In 2012-13, just 127 families were penalised, but a year later that figure shot up to 434. Last year again, that figure more than doubled to 983. The rise is thought to be in part because schools are being stricter in how they impose the government's rules. But parents this morning in Hove said they would welcome a change. Calls to group inset days into 1 week are also in consultation.
Rather than having it all in one big chunk in the summer, that could well help.
As long as the education was still the same number of days and the teachers felt like that wasn't going to have an effect on the way that they're teaching, I think that would be good.
If I want to take him out of school, I have to pay like £100 or something. So it's not fair, especially at the moment with this economic. So
the main difference I can see is that if they move one of the weeks from the summer holidays, that means that teachers would also be able to have an off-peak holiday. So that sounds great.
A new week's holiday would have to sit around exam timetables, leaving only a select number of dates available. Plans will be discussed by the council next week, with any changes not expected until September 2017. Andy Dickinson, ITV News, Brighton.
Last month, the damning report revealed a lack of leadership at the Southern Health NHS Trust, under whose care 800 people with mental health issues and learning difficulties died unexpectedly.
Well, today was the first chance for the Trust governors, who are supposed to oversee its work, to review the findings. And for members of the public, including a father from Ferry whose son died while in the care of Southern Health, today's meeting in Southampton was an opportunity to question officials, as Richard Slee now reports.
This was the first time the Council of Governors have had a chance to discuss the damning report about the way the Trust investigated deaths of vulnerable people in its care. But most of the debate was dominated by the view that it was politicians who were to blame, that the NHS as a whole was broken.
2 things are required: a major change in the culture and the management, which allows our managers to get on with the jobs properly, and huge amounts of training in quality management methods. People in the NHS know what that is. Most of them are never listened to.
It was the death of 18-year-old Connor Sparrowhawk, who drowned in the bath while suffering an epileptic seizure, that triggered the examination of all the deaths at the Trust over a 4-year period. The failure to properly investigate more than 1,000 deaths was, among other reasons, put down to a failure of leadership. The Trust's Chief Executive, Katrina Percy, was at today's meeting and said changes had been made.
You're on a journey and you're continually learning, and you learn both from within the organisation, but I think one of the advantages of others being involved is helping you connect with other organisations to learn from other people around the country.
After 2 hours of discussion, members of the public got to have their say.
But you talked about using this as an opportunity to make changes, but we've had so many opportunities.
And he said to you in December, there are no major concerns.
Mark, would it be helpful
if... you be?
Among the critics was Richard West, whose son David died whilst under the care of Southern Health in Fareham in 2013.
Relatives have got a very different light of Southern Health than you portrayed this morning.
Richard complained about the way the Trust was investigating deaths, and he's also made a formal complaint against Katrina Percy. He says both investigations are ongoing. Do you think anything's been learnt really in the time since your son died?
I think it's very hard to say, but my impression is that they have been trotting out the usual excuses of lessons to be learnt, training issues, and we're moving on.
Well, it was made clear by one governor here today that this was an opportunity for understanding and not accusations. And therefore, the position of the Chief Executive, Katrina Percy, was something that may be discussed at a future meeting. Richard Slee, ITV News, Southampton.
In other news, part of Bournemouth town centre was cordoned off today when a fire broke out in a flat above a bar. Up to 40 firefighters were called to the blaze above Sharkey's on Old Christchurch Road. It's thought the fire also spread to neighbouring flats. No one was injured.
Detectives have until midnight to charge or release a 32-year-old man arrested on suspicion of a murder on New Year's Day. Christopher Butler, who was 27, was found dead at a house on Waverley Road in Southsea.
The Sussex cricket coach Mark Davies has given his players the week off as the team comes to terms with the death of Matt Hobden. The 22-year-old bowler was found dead at a property in Scotland on Saturday. His death is being treated as unexplained but not suspicious.
You're watching ITV News in the Meridian region. Coming up.
How this man's discovery helped solve a 100,000-year-old mystery.
And for more on all of our stories, head to our website, itv.com/Meridian. Any views or news, you can call us on 0808 1010 095 or get in touch via Facebook or send us a tweet at ITV Meridian.
More of the day's news. Robert Stigwood, the multi-millionaire music producer and former owner of Barton Manor on the Isle of Wight, has died. The 81-year-old was best known for his work with the Bee Gees and Eric Clapton. He moved to the island in the early 1990s.
A new multi-million-pound Channel Islands ferry damaged in strong winds will remain out of action until the February half-term. The Condor Liberation vessel was buffeted into the quayside at Poole last week. It's meant disruption for passengers, including Jack Vidalow from Guernsey, who came to the south coast to pick up a new puppy, but has been stuck in Poole.
Well, they said it was going to run in higher waves, which it doesn't. They said that it was going to be quicker, which it isn't, and it runs very rarely now. I think they've just ruined their whole winter schedule.
And in a statement, Condor Ferry says this has been a very difficult first year of service for Condor Liberation, and we share the disappointment of our customers.
Meanwhile, on the trains, the MP for Crawley, Henry Smith, will lead a group of MPs from along the Brighton line to meet transport ministers later this month. Following recent disruption to services, passengers say a series of track and signal failures has led to weeks of chaos.
In December, I experienced myself many instances where I was having to stand at non-peak times, getting back to Crawley at 9, 10 o'clock at night. So clearly there is a serious problem, and that's why I will be meeting later this month with the Rail Minister, Claire Perry, along with other West Sussex and Surrey MPs, really to say this is unacceptable for our commuters.
A teenager who was told he couldn't leave school to set up his own business has done just that. Ben Towers, who's 17, did not want to go to college or stay in training until the age of 18, as the law states.
So he has employed himself as an apprentice and he has a whole team working for him. Tom Savides takes up the story.
Meet the businessman turned apprentice. Ben Towers is about to move into plush new offices after being told he wasn't allowed to leave school to run a company. The law states you must stay in education or training until you're 18. Ben is 17, so he has legally employed himself as an apprentice.
Business is going really well. Since I've sort of left school and been my own apprentice, I managed to do a lot of things I wouldn't have been able to do. So I've been able to travel to events all over the world, which again I wouldn't have been able to do whilst at school, so it's really opened a lot of doors. I want to do more, I want to be able to grow a business a lot faster and do a lot more things with it, and so I think it's quite motivating to actually be able to run the business, and it's different. I quite enjoy it.
Is it tough?
Yeah, I think it is tough because there's always people which want to say things about you being young in business and things like that, so there's a lot to sort of overcome, but actually I also think that it can be quite enjoyable as well.
Ben has always had entrepreneurial spirit. He set up his own digital media agency at 11 years old, specialising in website and graphic design and printing. He now has a staff of 15 working as full and part-time consultants and 750 clients. But despite that, the 17-year-old isn't always taken seriously in the business world.
I think it's strange trying to find the right people to work with, because you get some older people which look down upon you and say, oh no, I don't want to work with you, you're too young, you're not experienced, and one client told me I'd run off to the sweet shop.
Ben doesn't regret leaving education, as he has carved out a successful career and has also built up his own company.
Come in.
So do I stand a chance of getting a job with this whiz kid?
So Tom, what can you bring to my business?
Well, I've worked in television for 15 years, so I have a vast range of experience. I also know quite a few people, organisations, and I think that would bode well for your company.
I think, to be honest with you, I don't think that's what we're looking for at the moment, so I'm sorry to say.
So I'm not hired, but there's no doubting the fact that Ben Towers has proved that age is no barrier to succeeding in business. Tom Savides, ITV News.
It's all right, Tom, you've still got a job here.
Oh, no, it hasn't.
It's 17 minutes past 6. Let's cross to London and to Mary Nightingale to find out what's making the headlines on the national news.
Police searching for a former EastEnders actress and her 2 children have found 3 bodies at the family home. Sian Blake and her sons Zachary and Ammon haven't been seen for more than 3 weeks. Detectives want to speak to their father, who disappeared shortly after they were reported missing. David Cameron reveals cabinet ministers will be allowed a free vote in the EU referendum. And from his local pool to the big pond, meet the British man planning to be the first to swim the Atlantic. We'll do John Mark Austin and me for that and more at 6:30.
Now, can you imagine a time when elephants roamed wild on the Isle of Wight? No. Well, new evidence shows that they did, though in all fairness it was, and I remember it well, 100,000 years ago.
Knew you were going to say that. Well, the discovery of a fossil of the long since extinct species by Paul Hollingshead and his family has caused more than just a ripple of excitement. It's since been preserved and put on display at the Island Dinosaur Museum.
And I'm pleased to say Paul is with us in the studio. First of all, welcome. How did you find it? Because it was a dog walk with a difference, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. I literally, it was a nice sunny day, took the dog for a nice walk down the beach and just come across it in a gully.
What did it look like?
To start off with, it was just a very tiny bit of bone showing, and it took me quite a long time to dig it out, and I was amazed at how big it was, to be honest with you.
And Paul, the Isle of Wight is famed for its connections with dinosaurs, and we've got an image of how it might have looked at one time. But your find is something different, isn't it?
Yes. Apparently elephant fossils are quite rare to come by. There's lots of dinosaur fossils, but not many elephants.
But when you found it was an elephant, You were disappointed?
I was, yeah. I was hoping it to be a dinosaur because you don't expect to find elephant fossils.
You can't win all, though.
No, you can't. No.
And the intriguing thing is, you're not a fossil expert at all, are you?
No, not at all. I was literally just walking the dog down the beach.
And you haven't even kept it, you've given it away.
Yeah, well, it doesn't really look good on the mantelpiece, so yeah, just donated it to the dinosaur owl at Sandown.
And there's no money in this, it's just...
Yeah, no, they can have it. It doesn't interest me at all.
And genuine fossil experts are really annoyed, aren't they? Because they can't find these things and you have.
Yeah, I've managed to find an elephant's tooth as well now, so I just must be lucky.
And are you planning to go back and look for more things?
No, I just walk the dog down there, and if I do find anything, I find something. So it's just the way it is, isn't it?
You're just a lucky person.
I am.
You wouldn't do my lottery this week. Paul, lovely to meet you, and keep on searching. I mean, are you looking for other things?
No, not really, just walking the dog.
Great to talk to you. Okay. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Now, the idea is to brighten up Britain in time for the Queen's 90th birthday later this year.
Absolutely. The Clean for the Queen campaign is getting underway, with volunteers being enlisted to help clean up the country in time for the royal celebrations.
And Ashwin Issa has been taking a look at just what's involved, especially for us here in the south.
The Killock and Murdoch families are cleaning up their neighbourhood and hoping to inspire others to do the same. They say rubbish strewn across the countryside is blighting their lives. The Clean for the Queen campaign is the brainchild of Melissa Murdoch.
We see lots of these cans come up along the sides of the roads, thrown from car windows, and bags of trash that have been collected and just tossed out, and then a car will run over it and spread it around. Horrible for wildlife, horrible for those of us who have to look at it. The Queen, like all of us, I think is probably a bit disheartened by the amount of litter in the countryside and in the cities. I think she would probably appreciate a cleaner UK, and this is coming from the people. This is an ordinary citizen here who's fed up with litter, who's starting it and trying to galvanize others to take action.
I think it's very bad for the animals if litter's just left there, because some of it's not biodegradable, so it just sits there and then animals think it's food and they go and eat it. I just think it's a shame how people can think they just can treat the world like that, just throw litter out the window and just think they can get away with it without harming anything.
I lived in America 6 years ago, and the litter there is much better because they had massive fines there and people were much more worried about getting those fines.
Fines for littering are set locally by councils and range from £50 to £80. However, higher fixed penalty notices of up to £150 are being proposed by the government. The minimum fine could also double from £50 to £100. The big clean-up takes place on the first weekend of March. Campaigners hope to attract 1 million volunteers like these to help spruce up towns, villages and cities throughout the UK. Nashrin Issa, ITV News.
What a good idea. Clean for the Queen.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the Queen has been sent a message from space from our lovely Sussex astronaut and friend, Tim Peake.
Well, he recorded the video in response to the Queen's message wishing him good luck.
I'm truly honoured to have received Your Majesty's message, inspired by its wording and humbled to be able to represent the UK and Europe on board the ISS. I can tell you it's incredible to look at the British Isles for the first time from space. Our islands and our nation are a special place to me, and I hope that the next 6 months will demonstrate to everyone across the UK and Europe how international collaboration and brave endeavour can change our world for the better. So thank you again for your well wishes, Ma'am. I hope I can bring the country together to celebrate Britain in space and our great tradition of scientific exploration. And before I sign off, I'm not sure that this has ever been said in space before, so I'll be the first. God save the Queen.
God save the Queen. He didn't do his trademark somersault though, did he? A patriotic Tim Peake there, and it's been announced that he'll be making his first spacewalk in 10 days' time.
And the very best of luck to him.
Absolutely.
It will probably come as no great surprise to you. December was the wettest month since records began, since, well, way back in 1910.
Gloomy news for most of us, but at least some made the best of the wet weather. Figures from the Met Office show the Lake District and Scotland bore the brunt of the storms, with more than 330 millimetres of rain. That's 13 inches in old money.
Well, here in the south, believe it or not, rainfall was much closer to average, ranging from around 75 to 125 metres. It was also the warmest December on record, with temperatures averaging nearly 8 centigrade, and that's almost 4 degrees higher than we might expect. So who'd be a weatherman? Well, Mrs. Wright's son, James would, and here he is with your forecast.
That's us driving on, us driving off in France, and us outside a chateau.
Driving to Europe. Eurotunnel Le Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
Good evening. For rainbows, you need sunny spells and showers, and we've certainly had plenty of those showers at least. Why? Well, you can see what's been going on over the last few hours. Big loop of showers, a lot of them blowing up through the English Channel there, few more forming out towards the west, and they'll be pushing through during the evening and overnight. But fast forward to Thursday, with another band of showery rain moving across us before things brighten up a touch into Thursday afternoon. Back to tonight, well, lots of cloud around, few showers blowing around, and because the ground is so damp at the moment, expect a little bit of mist and fog to form. Could turn up anywhere, mind. Temperatures down to 4 to 6 Celsius, and then tomorrow morning, bit of a grey and murky start, particularly if you do pick up any mist and fog. Will take a little while to lift into low cloud, but things should brighten up for Dorset during the morning, and the brightness expected to extend a little further north and eastwards during the day. Highs of 7 or 8 Celsius. Like I say, a little bit of a damp start on Thursday, but then brightening up. More showers on Friday. Breezy over the next few days. Bye for now.
Eurotunnel Le Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
In just a moment, we have the ITV Evening News with Mary Nightingale and Mark Austin.
I shall have our late news, so do join me if you can. But for now, from the team here at ITV Meridian, thank you very much, as always, for watching. We really appreciate it.
We do.
Take care, stay dry.
See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.